I feel like I want to say thank you on behalf of all the birthday babies who were named at the beginning of the service, and I can only hope that this is good karma. I'll just breathe deeply beside these balloons for the 100th birthday. Yesterday I was quite short of 100 years when I celebrated my birthday, so I'm hoping that that good influence will just waft over me as I stand here. Thank you especially as well to Marlene and Shirley for sharing their reflections of the wonderful time they have in the Friendship Club. I know that there aren't many organizations in the United Church as old as that whose purpose has been to maintain and uplift the people that they are together. So we give thanks for that as well as these birthdays. I don't know how you're doing with wearing a mask. I see some of you doing it quite well. The other day I had an experience at the store and I was talking to the young clerk about just getting used to wearing a mask all the time. And I shared with her a story. I talked to a couple of others about where I took my mask off and I was talking to people. And when I got home, I realized that my lipstick was pretty well evenly distributed all over the bottom half of my face. So I was telling her about this at Save-On as I checked out, and she had the most beautiful smile the whole time I was talking. She was so understanding. I got home and I found out that my blue mascara had dissolved underneath my glasses. So while I'm telling her about my the lipstick everywhere, I'm surprised she didn't burst out laughing, let alone keep her smile on her face. So these are some of the challenges we're facing about learning this new way, this way with the masks and social distancing like we see here today. And now we're worried because not all is right. We're worried about a second wave. The Prime Minister talked about it, Theresa Tam talked about it, and our own Dr. Bonnie Henry. So we have a kind of mounting concern, and we've heard that Dr. Henry has received death threats. So there's clearly mounting anger in that anxiety. And people are watching each other, making sure that no one is taking unnecessary risks. So it shouldn't be a surprise when we hear Moses receives death threats when things don't go smoothly for the people of Israel. He was told to take action to relieve their thirst because they were beginning to pick up rocks to throw at him. Dr. Henry describes some of the rocks that people have said they want to throw at her. I have no such remedy. I cannot hit a stone with a magic potion and release good health, as Moses was able to hit the rock at Horeb and release water. Our thirsts today we have are many. And underneath it, that story from the Hebrew Bible, I think, still speaks to us of how God provisions us, even in the most extraordinary circumstances. What are some of our circumstances today that we might come to God for provision for? The water from the rock we would maybe ask for was life before what we're going through now. But it was a sign, wasn't it, that God had not abandoned them, even though they felt abandoned, even though they felt alone there. So we also can have faith that even in COVID, we have not been abandoned. Our water from the rock, not literal water, and the story is told with nuance and understanding so that we don't just dwell on the literal surface. But what is that water that God sends us now? It works for me to think that it is connection, it is community, it's God's call to be together. It is not good for us to be alone. People reaching out is the water from the rock at Horeb. And we need that today. We are thirsty for that today. Our thirsts are very different, each one of us, and in different parts of the world, different parts of the country, and even different parts of this lower island. Nevertheless, though, is a thirst that we feel lonely. We feel lonely for companions, or the crowd, or for the life that was. It's very hard in our 21st century world to say, I'm lonely. That's considered shameful for us. It's still difficult for people to say, I'm lonely. And here we are, over and over again, echoing those words. And so this service, in part today, as you heard from Marlene and Shirley, is a thank you to everyone who reaches across the spaces between us and seeks to touch base. This is perfect timing after 70 years of the Friendship Club. Think of what's happened in those 70 years, a lot of good times, but a lot of hard times and frightening times as well. So for a network of people, even in a city the size of Victoria, to stay in touch for 70 years involves thousands of individual actions. And as Leanne suggested in their opening words this morning, this would be a great day for us to go home and reach out in one of those ways. In the desert, the Hebrew children had precious memories, but they got twisted, didn't they? Did you bring us out here from where we had water? Did you bring us out here to die of thirst? So some of us might be feeling like we're dying of thirst. God didn't bring us here, we know that. But we are here with God, being invited to make the phone call, to send the note, and how wonderful it is to get snail mail every so often. To the ones who stop, even when we know they are the busiest people on the block, to check in with somebody. Not a long conversation, 1 minute, 36 seconds. And also, so importantly, a thank you to the prayer teams, because they faithfully take time. It's not just like they read a grocery list of here who's got a broken leg, who's having a 100th birthday, who's worried about this. They take time and go through that list prayerfully, slowly, imagining, lifting each person up to the provision, the spiritual provision of God. What a beautiful gift that is. So grateful for that prayer team. I wonder how many stories that we could share, if we were allowed to do that, today, of life-changing connections when somebody reached out to us at some point in our life and did something for which we are extraordinarily grateful. Years ago, my mother-in-law began to show early signs of dementia. A neighbor came forward that I'd never even heard her name. I said to her one day, "What's your connection with Marge?" She said, "When I was 11 years old, my father was terminally gored by a bull. Marge Black was there every week with a casserole. Now it's my turn." She's older than me. She remembered, and she acted all those years later. What stories we have amongst us of the power, the life-giving power of those beautiful connections. How many sacred moments are in our life stories, are in our journals, our diaries, that are as important to us as that fresh water from the rock in Horeb. The person who initiated the contact, they don't even remember it. They may not even remember saying, "Hello, how are you?" Stopping, slowing down, knowing our name. They may not remember it, but the pebble fell into our pond. The ripples are in our water. We are still the ones who are affected. I wonder how many of those gestures that we treasure cost less than $5 when they were originally done. We might even call them priceless now. But it is a different currency we're dealing with now, isn't it? It's the currency of caring and connection in a way we couldn't even have imagined 1 calendar year ago. Do you remember when we first got loonies and then doubloons? Until we had them, you could have a pocket of change and count it all out and have, like, I don't know what, $3.36. A little stack of nickels, a little stack of dimes, and then a whole lot of pennies. But now, if you have a pocket full of change, you're talking money. You've got enough for a latte out, because the doubloons and the loonies have changed it. The currency has changed, and it took us a while to get used to it and buy a purse strong enough to carry it. and to make sure that we really did remember that that little pocket full of change was what used to be green $1 bills and pink $2 bills. It took a while for us to learn that currency, that new change currency, and it's such a small change. It's taking us a while to learn the new currency of caring. So we have a mitt full of coins. We have a bit of time. We have a bit of ambition to connect. We have been inspired by the story of a group meeting for 7 years. Intentional, deliberate connection. The first, the third, and the fifth Wednesday of the month. Like coins, they are familiar. There's coins all over the world, but specifically here for us. We wear masks. We're learning to wear waterproof mascara and just lip gloss for you women. But we're also learning the security that masks provide. We're learning about hand sanitizer. And can I just check, how many of you found that when you've pumped it, the hand sanitizer has gone all over? You have very little bit in your hand, but the top of your blouse or your suit has all sorts of glistening hand sanitizer on it. I'm getting onto that. So the power of the reaching out, our new currency, I thought of you. Our new currency, I prayed for you. Both sides are blessed, the person who prays and the person who's prayed for, the person who picks up the phone and the person who answers. The water refreshes the caller and the called. Today's celebration of 70 years, and also the reassurance that we have come here in groups big and small. We've come through so much, so often before, because by the provision of the Holy Spirit, we are given a chance to sip the water of God's own provision, a water of divine caring. Thanks be to God.